Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming and thank the Naming Center for offering me this opportunity to talk about reentry and reintegration. For y'all that don't know me, I've been doing this for about 50-something years, over 50-something years. My thesis for my master's degree in 1998 was reentry. And I did a pilot program in Cumberland County Prison. And after the pilot program, I wanted to insert it into the prison, but there was no funding available, so they didn't want to insert it. In 2000, money came available, and then they wanted the program, but they didn't want to pay, so they didn't get it. You know, the questions that I put on there is really to make you think about, you know, when does this all start? So I got some stats about recidivism. And what I would like you to do is to look at what part do you play in that? You know, like all I'm saying is we got to take ownership. If we're working in the field, we got to take ownership for what part we play in recidivism. The unique thing about what I'm bringing to the table is I'm also a successful reentrant. Been incarcerated in New York, New Jersey, PA, worked in Cumberland County Prison for 24 years, Dauphin County for 2.5 years, the Methadone Clinic for a year, Gadenzia 8 years. So I got a lot of experience, and I'm in recovery for close to 41 years. So I got a lot of experience, a lot of hats I'm wearing, you know, so I know what it's like when you first come in and what happens and all of that. So, and I'm from New York, so you pick up on the accents, huh? All right. Approximately 600,000 people are released from state and federal prisons each year in the U.S., and another 9 million cycle through local jails. Recidivism trends. Historic national recidivism studies show how rates of return to the system, 68% of people released in 2005 were rearrested within 3 years. Wow. Recidivism measures vary. Rearrest, reconviction, reincarceration should be explained for the training accuracy. I also, I have some statistics, but I didn't put it up there. In Pennsylvania, recidivism rates, because I wanted to be personal for us, and the recidivism in Pennsylvania is high. State data indicates that approximately 64.7% of inmates released from state correctional institutions are rearrested or reincarcerated within 3 years. Why? What do you think that, what draws that number? I'm asking the question. Okay.
I think probably also like people don't realize you have like the jail, all of the jail fees, you're paying off a lot of times. It's expensive fees, but I didn't realize that. I guess I didn't realize until I did this work that people got charged in jail and how much that costs.
So fines.
Like the fines,
fines and costs.
You can't afford your housing because you're paying the fines, or you can't find transportation.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's hard to get a job when you have a background.
Okay.
You have to start really small, and you're not going to make enough to survive and pay your probation and meet the probation stipulations, which require you to be able to be stable. Plus,
Okay.
other things.
I know you got an answer.
Yeah, like I just think it's a number of things, and it's never just one thing. It's always a multitude of things happening at one time, and the inability to be able to navigate all of the problems that are being hit. Like I know when I'm dealing with my guys, they become easily frustrated. Especially if they feel like they're doing the right thing and then things aren't coming together. And like one of the terms that I use with my guys, you know, is that life will life, like it's gonna life, like what you're navigating isn't anything different than what any other human being navigates. But in their mind, I think part of the downfall is the fact that they think that the background is what's holding them back. And I'm not saying that it isn't, I'm just saying that, like, I've been in this field for so long that I've seen the progress over the last, and it's tremendous. Like, and the issues that we faced even 10 years ago just aren't, it's just not relevant to today, in my opinion.
Okay.
So I don't know. I just think it's not really like one thing that we can point to. It's the combination of just a multitude of problems that may not be able to be resolved immediately, and then that's defeating for any
Right.
person. You know, it's frustrating. So.
Well, me and Ms. Lewis used to work together in Camp Hill State Prison. I used to bring reentry services into Camp Hill State Prison. I don't remember the year. We ain't gonna go through that. But my thing was that I needed to be proactive rather than reactive. I needed to start helping them while they're inside before they get out. In other words, I need to help them change their thinking. You know, I'm talking about those who were incarcerated and also the staff in the institution. You'd be surprised. You know, I had a CO come up to me after group and he said, I think I'm in the wrong field. I said, why you say that? He says, after hearing you, I said, but you're a father. He said, yeah. I said, model that. Model being a father. I don't believe that just because we have a title that we should function in the title, because I think it's a bigger calling. And I was sharing with Brian earlier, we're change agents. That's what when we join up for this, we're helping to change somebody's life. So it's real important that I have mine together. You know, yeah, I got to have mine together. I got to have my life together. How can I be effective? And that's the question I always pose to people is, does your affect have an effect? What you bring, is it helping the people that you're supposed to be serving? And if it's not, then you're entertaining and you're hanging out. So I really value being effective. I'm going to get back to this. 1 year overall rate, 40% of releases recidivate within 1 year. That's in Pennsylvania. The reincarceration data, the 3-year reincarceration rate for Pennsylvania was recently reported at 40.6%. County offenders. Preliminary studies such as those analyzing 7 PA counties show that 3-year arrest rates for county probation jail populations can vary, with some studies focusing on rural central areas indicating significant reentry challenges. One of the reasons I was ready to leave the prison, I started seeing generations. I was in like the 3rd generation of incarcerated people. Like I had the father, then I seen the son, and then I seen the grandson. And that's in 24 years, 3 generations. I'm gonna go back to the slide. Contributing risk factors, barriers strongly correlated with recidivism include unemployment rate of 27% among formerly incarcerated people, 25% lack a high school diploma or GED, high rates of homelessness or housing insecurity. I had a young lady ask me one day, she says, I met this guy and, you know, he was incarcerated. I said, I got 2 questions. How long and what did he do? That's what you want to know. And she said, how long, what did he do? I said, if he was incarcerated for 5 years and he didn't have a GED and he came home without a GED, why would you want to be bothered with him? Because it's real obvious that he didn't take the time that was available to do something to make a change. With all the distractions and obstacles in the community, what makes you think he's going to do something different? So you got to look at, you got to measure. You don't judge people. I don't judge people. I measure. what do you say? Is it matching with how you living? Because sometimes we say things that we ain't really doing. Bureau of Justice Statistics, Recidivism and Reentry Program, the authoritative national source for somebody help me with that. Longitudinal release and recidivism data. National Recidivism and Reentry Data Program, expanded data sets and linked administrative courts. Office of Justice Program, additional resources and tools, including community corrections and parole data. Guillermo, tell them why you came.
I want to find out more about, I've been on parole since 2024. I've been over here in Harrisburg and all. I just want to find out how I can get more help. I got a job. I don't got no housing. I rent a room. So that's before I came home, they had a meeting in the auditorium in jail, and they were saying like parole will help you out when you come home. You know, I'm not from here. I'm from Kennett Square. But when I got out, I lost everything. So I had to start all over. That's basically what I'm here for, trying to find out how I can get help from parole.
Good for you.
So the better equipped we are, the more informed we are with the services in the community, the better we can help the people that we're charged with serving. You know, networking. I don't network for me, I network for who's gonna be before me. Because the information that I'm gonna get probably is gonna help them in some way, whether it's housing, whether it's employment. You know, here at A New Tomorrow, we do workforce development. So not only do we help people get a job, but we also financially empower them. Like we might have them clean around the building or something and give them $20. Because some of them don't have families that's giving them money. And you'd be surprised, you know, the difference $20 make to somebody who has no money. You know, and I think more important than the money is people don't want to know how much you know, they want to know how much you care. And care is through action. You could say, I care all you want, and then when they ask for a ride to go looking for work, then they find out you really can't do it. You don't care like that. You know, I'm not talking about parole agents because, you know, there's boundaries, there's parameters, you know, with your job. You can't take people out looking for work, but people who can, you know, and there's a lot of different organizations in the community that say they provide these services. But is there a limitation to it? Where, you know, do you really serve or are you just collecting? I mean, because I'll keep it real. Are you just collecting? You know, like I said, and the measurement is in the stats. How many people successfully complete the program? How many people are productive members of society as a result of their experience with you or with your organization? And I think that's important. Key metrics to track in reentry work. Participants' engagement, enrollment rates in programs, attendance rates for scheduled sessions, completion rates of assessments or classes. Excuse me. One of the things I know is I'm also an entrepreneur. Before people buy the product, they buy personality. It's the same with human service practices. Before they buy what you're offering, they buy personality. If you're mean and nasty, they're leaving. They're out. When they come in the door and people are like, yes, what can I do for you? I don't think you could do anything for me right now. I'm out the door. You know, yeah, because you're nasty. And I don't know if that got something to do with your personal life. What it got, you might not need this job. Because the people who come in are already wounded. Matter of fact, they're open wounds. You know what I mean? And you just put your finger in one of them. And so we got to be real sensitive, you know, about the people that come before us, you know, and really in order to be effective in helping them. And start the conversation. How can I help you? You know, and then they'll start telling you. Like when he came here this morning, he said, you know, he wanted to come here. And I said, well, what's the need? And he told me housing. I said, well, we have applications for housing. Do you? Yeah. Yeah. Nobody told him. I said, okay, but you're here now. So when it's over, he'll fill it out and you know, he'll get in the program. But it's that simple. You know, another piece is they got to take responsibility too. You know, they got to ask, not just leak, I call it leaking. Everybody who you think is connected to somewhere that can help me, I need to tell them what my need is. Because I don't know where my help is coming from. I don't know who's going to give it to me. So I got to open my mouth and say what my need is. Risk and behavior measures, pre and post assessment changes and structured risk scores, change in criminal thinking, attitudes, substance use, screening, and test results. One thing I know is people coming out of institutions, whether they're chemically dependent or mental health, they need a model. They need a model. And I know a guy who schizophrenic, bipolar, you know, and was manic. And I was sponsoring him. And he used to call me and cuss me out. And I was like, this is not good. I don't know what's going on. And the more I pushed medication, the more he fought. And what happened is, one day I was talking to the God of my understanding, and he told me, leave him alone. He said, walking is therapeutic for people that's mentally ill. So he lived in Philly. He called me and said, I said, where you at? Because I heard a noise. He said, I'm on the bridge to Camden. I said, where you going? I'm going to an NA meeting, Narcotics Anonymous meeting. I said, okay. So what happens is, in the process of walking, when they come home, anybody who's schizophrenic, bipolar, whatever, they go to sleep. They're tired. They're wore out. And finally, when he surrendered, when he got tired of going through what he went through, he came up here, and now he has 12 years clean. I mean, that's what happens. He got his own apartment, self-sufficient, empowerment. That's what it's all about, to empower them to do for themselves and not handicap. And a lot of them come from handicap and codependency. So if we're always doing this, come on, and taking them right there, no, we ain't doing that. When my brother came here, I took him out in Pembroke and told him, get out my truck. He said, you'll find your way. You did it when you was out there. You'll be able to do it. And he found his way. You know, but that's empowerment. I'm not going to handicap you. I'm not going to babysit you. None of that. Any questions before anybody? Interjection?
One thing I wanted to say too was my family, a lot of enablement, but I had to get to the point where I wanted to eventually become a man, right? In my 30s, like still being enabled so much, or in my late 20s by my family, especially my mother. My dad was a federal prison guard, so he wasn't having any of it, but my mom would never, kind of let me go. And then I would use the excuse, well, I don't want to upset my mom, so I would keep taking and taking and taking. Until I got a relationship with the Lord and knew that I didn't want to go back to the life I led before, and I had to set boundaries. She didn't like it because she was so codependent that I think she thought if I got my life cleaned up, she wouldn't have a life, or she wouldn't have anybody to nurture her or anything like that. But I had to, at one point, have that hard conversation and be like, no, it's okay. Like, I don't want this stuff anymore. And that's not because I'm ungrateful. It's just because if I don't become a man now, I'm going to be in my 40s, 50s, even if I make it that long, and still not know how to do anything, and keep getting frustrated because I don't know how to do anything.
That's good.
So that was one thing that my mom got lots of counseling, lots of support and everything like that, but she couldn't just let it go. And I had to be the one to do that. And I see that a lot sometimes in some of our people that are in inpatient right now, is that they're not willing to let go yet because they know that that's their lifeline right now. And they're not willing to pick up their own lifeline and take it. But it was something that was very important to my recovery because I could have sat there and kept taking and taking and taking, but then I'm the dry drunk. I'm not learning anything. I'm not doing anything. I'm making minimal strides to better myself, to eventually set myself up for what God had for me next and what recovery had for me next. But it was important. It was something I had to do because the other person was not going to do it. They just weren't. You know, I knew my mom long enough that she was not gonna ever let go with that, so I had to say, no, I can't.
That's
It was
good.
a hard conversation that I didn't want to have, because you don't want to upset family members, but I had to do it, and that's when I really started, thriving and learning how to do things on my own and not being afraid to go out and do things on my own. Because I knew how to do all those things, but
Right.
I was using the excuse I didn't want to upset someone. When really it was like, I just don't want to do anything.
Right.
I just want to be lazy, but be better, right?
Right.
How can I be lazy and better at the same time?
You made a point there, spirituality. One of the things I used to ask guys in the prison when I would speak with them, the first thing I want to know is where you're at spiritually. I would ask, what's your book of reference? And they'd be like, yeah, what governs your conduct, your behavior, your attitude? So now I got a point of reference. I know where to start with them or not start with them. I'm not going to burn, that's why I'm not burnt out. Because if you don't want it, I'm not giving it. I'm not going to, and a lot of them would come in and tell me, where they're at spiritually, and then I could go from there. I could help them. I'm also an elder in the church. I got to say that. I'm an elder. I wrote a book called, it's a manual. It's called Prison Ministry Manual, teaching people how to set up the room when they do ministry in the prison, and it could work in just doing a group in the prison, the same setup, the same principles, what you want to accomplish when you do it, But you can, if you beat somebody up, physically beat them up, the only thing that's going to change is not the spirit of the man or the woman. Might be the body. They might have a black eye, might have a broken arm, but their spirit is still the same. If they're negative and want to fight all the time and all that, you ain't changing nothing. But when you change the spirit of the individual, then everything else changes. I believe that. And that's something, that I learned. This is my experience. I'm talking about in all the years I've been, like I said, it's over 50 years. I started getting involved in 1969, so it's a lot of years I've been involved in corrections and criminal justice in New York, New Jersey, PA, people are people, same, Some of the obstacles are more challenging than maybe in other places. Let me get individualized needs assessment. Assessing strength and barriers to tailor support rather than one size fit all. One size don't fit all. Everybody comes before me, I treat as an individual. And I even learned a little bit of Spanish. I had to learn a little bit of Spanish, and you'd be surprised what a difference that makes. Tú hablo español poquito, just a little bit. I speak Spanish a little bit. That's enough. Because that's saying you wanted to learn about my culture, and they say, you know anything? No, I don't know anything. I can't speak no more. But even I took up French, so I parle français. Right now in Harrisburg, we have a big Asian population on the hill, and when they come by, I say. When I do that, they go like this. They never thought that I would have learned that language. And it makes a difference. It sets the stage for me to be able to communicate with them. You know what I mean? Because there's some familiarity. And that's important. When you're trying to help people or trying to talk to people, you gotta have some familiarity. When we do assessments and assessing strength and barriers, what's a barrier? What a guy coming out of jail, a woman coming out of jail, what do you think these barriers are going to look like for them? Well, we talked about food, clothing, shelter. Well, those are barriers. If I'm in the halfway house like on Cameron Street, I got to maintain my own food. I got to get my own. I'm in Keystone, they feed me, but that's limited. Huh?
I said, is that food?
Yeah, well, they call it that, don't sneeze, I don't know, but but these are needs. How about out there in Keystone? There's no transportation. You got to go 3 miles to the bus stop. That's a barrier for employment. That's a barrier. and then no telling where you're going because you're not from the area. So who's instructing them? Who's giving them information on how to get a bus? Those are important. So these become barriers. And what happens is frustration shows up. So what do people incarcerated do when frustration show up? They act out. Like little kids. What do kids do when they don't get their way? They act out. And that's what grown folks do. They act out. So you have people using substance. Substance abuse is a big thing now in those kind of places because of the frustration. But the more group activity you have, the more individual sessions you have, the more relief comes. I worked in a place where, I ain't gonna name the place, where they don't have any groups. So everybody's getting high. Matter of fact, the word in the building is, if you want to get high, go to the hole. You gotta be kidding. In a secure environment, you get high. In the unsecure, you don't. That don't make sense. But it's the behavior. So now, not only are the inmates acting out, but so is the staff, because they're bringing in the contraband. And I always say, human service system is dysfunctional, functional. The functional dysfunction. The challenge is for us as providers is not to get caught in the dysfunction, not to assimilate the behavior of the people we serve. And it happens, especially in those environments, in prison environments. They assimilate the behavior because they want to be accepted, because they're not sure who they are, right? Supportive, trust-based relationships. A strong supportive alliance between staff and participants predict better engagement and outcomes. Is that true? Is that true? A strong supportive alliance between staff and participants? I'm asking, is that true?
It depends if they're thinking the same. If the staff's treating you good, you guys are on the same page, and it could make a difference.
I know when we were talking about barriers and stuff like that, that was one of mine, is that I wouldn't allow people to help me. I wanted help so bad, but I wouldn't allow them because I'm like, then they're gonna want to know everything I'm doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if I'm feeling off one day, I have someone keeping me accountable, and I don't know if I really want that right now. Because I don't know if I was purely committed to the thing that I acted like I was committed to getting better, right? And that was another thing in my recovery too that was very important, was starting to trust people again and starting to communicate with them as they're like an accountability partner instead of just communicating what I wanted to. Communicating the things I really didn't want to communicate because I didn't want to held accountable. Because in my mind, I don't know if I wanted to stay clean, but the words I was talking, I wanted to, because everyone else wanted me to stay clean. Oh, you'll do so well. You have so much. You have so much ahead of you and stuff like that. But I wasn't really convinced.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you break through to someone? Like, I literally have a guy that actually just left Keystone. I've had him for like a month and a half, I want to say, and that's literally my situation with him. I had him. He was on GPS. He just kept violating, and I was trying to reach him and just say, like, listen, if you work with me, we can get this thing off of you, and he was using, and then he was denying, and now I finally got him an inpatient, and he hates my guts. Like, literally.
I did too. I've been a probation officer forever until I started doing well. And then I'm like, oh my God, now I'm not even on probation anymore, and I still talk to him. Because I was on probation with him for almost 9 years. You know what I mean? And finally, towards the end, when I started doing better and my mind wasn't cloudy and I knew what I wanted to do, then I was like, man, this guy was like a second father to me. He really was.
Right.
I didn't know him any more money. I didn't have anything more that I owed him or that he owed me. And that's kind of when our relationship started building. I remember the last time I got thrown in jail, I was using and I went to him and he's like, what do you want me to do? I said, if you let me walk that street right now, I'm going to die. He's like, yeah, but you want to go to jail? He was gonna probably let me out.
Mm.
And I'm like, I have to go. I'm telling you right now. I had a broken arm from a car accident and all that stuff. He goes, you don't want to go in there like that? I said, no, if you put me back on that street, I'm gonna die. And that's when the real relationship started. He's like, I don't really want to do this to you. I'm like, yeah, but I need to do this or I'm gonna die. He's like, well, I don't want you to die. I'm like, I'm telling you right now that this is what's gonna happen. I'm gonna keep going because I don't know how to not keep going, or I would have gotten clean before I came in to see you. And it was just that so many times. And he was labeled the worst probation officer ever, the strongest, like all that stuff. I had him for drug court and all these kind of things. I had him for so long that I never started liking him until I actually started spending time understanding where he was coming from. And I tell the students that a lot too on the mountain. I said, listen, you're mad at a lot of people right now, but things are going to clear up eventually. You're going to be like, wow, they liked me enough to be hard on me the way they needed to be. When other people would just be like, oh, no, it's okay, Brian. You'll get it someday.
Right.
You'll get it someday. I didn't need to hear that. I needed to hear, Brian, you're going to go to state prison the rest of your life if you don't stop.
That's it.
And that still wasn't even enough.
Yeah.
But it was years later when I started getting my life right that it all clicked in my mind. Like, okay, like my dad, my probation officer, they're all very hard on me. But I needed that. I couldn't do it without it.
Right.
I did well in programs. I did great in every program they sent me to. I was great. If I could have, I even told them one time, if I could stay in jail and maybe get a pass every once in a while, I'll stay there. That's how I was because it's easy for me.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I get fed.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I don't have any responsibilities.
That was normal. That became a norm. We redefine norm when we get incarcerated. Janine, you?
Oh, I just wanted to add to piggyback to that also, from personal experience with that as well. I had my first PO, I had her for 20 years. Like, she wouldn't go away. I don't know why. It was me, but I made it her fault. But anyway, I was broken. I didn't want to let anybody care for me or help me. So it ain't you, girl. He's broken. Like, he's scared to let you help him because he has so many people he's let him down his whole life. So you just got to keep being there for him and showing him that you're not going to give up. Like,
I'm not gonna, I try, but like yesterday I went to see him and as soon as he saw me just rolled his eyes and I'm like, I've only had him for a month. Like, I'm just trying to figure out why he's so mad at.
But here's the thing. This is what I learned, my experience. In order to be effective in helping people, you might have to hurt them, their feelings. You might have to hurt their feelings. Tell them no is hurting their feelings. Yeah. Tell them you're going to treatment. That's hurting my feelings. And you only been a month. I had this joker for 2 years and he never sent me to treatment. And all of a sudden I get you. And now all of a sudden you want me going to treatment.
It's one or the other. It's gonna be one or the other. So what happens is they don't understand.
Yeah.
They don't understand what's happening. You thrown out a life raft. And the guy, whoever you had, never did. He just maintained.
So don't give up.
So, even if you look at it, when we raise our children, sometimes this gonna hurt, if you still beating kids, because, some people don't, I ain't beating mine, I go to jail. But if you did it, this gonna hurt you, hurt me more than hurt you, all that stuff. Yeah, right. But sometimes you gotta do that, the things we say. Even in a relationship, in a marriage or whatever, you might have to hurt your spouse's feelings with the truth. And just do what you got to do and keep it moving. And do what you're doing now, processing, releasing. Yeah, because you'll carry that. And then you'll be like, I ain't sending nobody treatment no more. No, send everybody that needs treatment, send them there. Will they stay, like it or not, you send them anyway. If that's it, your professional opinion is they need to go, send them. That's what I say. And that's what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ain't playing with, can't. Life or death, right?
Saved my life, so I wouldn't be, still sitting here today if I hadn't had her when I had, so.
That's, I'll tell you, one time I was speaking in Camp Hill, Day of Responsibility, right? Now I had a big group on the block, about 30, 40 guys, right? I'll be up here Saturday, I'm speaking, 3 guys showed up. All they had to do was get up and walk across the walk to the gymnasium and to the gym. That's where I was at. And they didn't come. Spoke volumes about who they were and what they were willing to do. And I let them know that too. The next group I had, I let them know that, you know. I gave them their reality. And that's the main thing, is that we stay in reality when we're speaking to them. You know, not la la land. You know, I just got high one time. No, you have a pattern of that. Look at your incarcerated state. You have a pattern of being incarcerated because of your usage. No, I'm not making something up. I'm looking at the information before me. You know, am I good with time? Am I?
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing I wanted to say too is, if I don't trust myself, I'm not going to trust other people.
Oh, whatever.
And when I first got out, I didn't really trust myself. So it was hard for me to build that, and I think maybe sometimes that happens too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they've been let down by so many people, mainly themselves.
Right.
Mainly themselves. At one point when I got out, I'm like, I don't even deserve to be out of jail. I don't even deserve to be getting clean, stuff like that. So I didn't trust myself enough to even come close to trusting another person. And that might be what they're going through too.
Right.
If they're a chronic relapser like I was, I didn't trust anything about myself. I knew if I showed up at a certain place and something was there, I was in trouble. And I wasn't calling anybody first because my mind was already made up. So
Right.
I think that's a lot of it too. And we deal with that a lot in treatment too. It's getting people to trust themselves again. You know, because we can't truly trust anybody else until we trust ourselves. And that's hard, especially when you're coming from a background of treating people the way we did, and the mistakes we made and the decisions we made. So that might be an issue too. You know, it's hard for him to trust himself because he keeps messing up. So why would he trust you that you know what you're talking about? You know what I mean?
So y'all deal with homeless people?
Yeah.
Or people who've been evicted and stuff?
And I mean, there is a strong percentage that are reentrants in some capacity. So I mean, there is a percentage in the I'm at the family shelter location, so we have a single adults one, and we have the families. So I mean, we do have a high percentage. I guess what resonates with me when you were speaking was about sometimes you kind of just have to speak the truth of the pattern when they're saying, you know, it's just this one time or whatever. I guess, how do you balance? I guess what I struggle with as a professional is I have that kind of similar mindset. I know I've been through things, and I kind of have to see the pattern of behavior and what it's telling you about how you want to live your life. But I guess when leadership has a different perception, or I guess because there's lived experience and then there's folks that just kind of know the theories, or they don't. So I guess, like, how do you balance that where you really want to help people? Other people might see it as mean, but you're kind of trying to bring
correct.
Yes, it's not politically correct, or you're trying to bring attention to, okay, but, you know, like, same thing with chronically unhoused. You know, if it was just one time or here and there, they wouldn't be chronically unhoused. You know, there's a pattern of something that is getting in their way.
So it's deeper than just the individual that's before me.
Yeah.
So what it comes down to is just like addiction. This thing becomes generational. My mother lived in the projects. My grandmother lived in the projects. Now my sister lives in the projects. That's generational. And remember I was talking about the model? Well, that was the model before me. So it's okay to live in a center because my mother did it with us. You know what I mean? That's normal for them. Now you're saying for me to do something outside of my norm, which is to pay rent.
As caseworkers, I think some of our caseworkers on our team have that mentality of we are trying to challenge that and encourage, and then there's this mindset of, like you said, the politically correct. We're supposed to say, well, if we give them housing, magically all these things are going to happen, and we're bound by the funding to kind of enable that. So I guess it's a struggle because it's like, how do you get leadership to say, okay, like, we can still provide them housing, still treat them with respect, and, you know, treat them as people, but you kind of have to bring to attention the generational part of it, the what are you doing for your success beyond today, and it's kind of hard because it's like, how do you?
And it's a
If someone's hungry, you can feed them fish, but if you teach them how to fish, then they will never be hungry again.
That's it. That's it. That's the truth.
You know.
And it's a mindset. So before I even start giving you money for housing, I got to help you change your behavior, your mindset. Change your mind, your behavior follow. So I got to put more focus on that stuff than just giving you a house, the money, or whatever.
question. Do you have to make sure they can maintain it?
So we are an emergency shelter. I guess the issue is we are bound from our public funds to follow this federal model, and it's called Housing First, but they don't track recidivism rate. And I have strong feelings on it because I think like they're saying being successfully housed is just once you get into a place. So we can do a budget and see, can you sustain it? But here's the thing, it doesn't mean that they're gonna stay in contact with their PO. They're not gonna stay in contact with their mental health, because once we fade out, we're not continuing long-term.
Right.
So like we get them into a room rental, we get them into a place, you know, we might stay in touch the first month or two, make sure that they have the budget, but after that, it then comes back and becomes a cycle where they come back to you because like they aren't actually, and that's the problem. It's like technically for our measures, we are successful if you look at the data, but really are we successful?
Right.
Because they're coming back.
Wow.
You know?
Right.
I
That's
spent a lot of time in Philadelphia,
Yeah.
Kensington area for about a year and a half, walking the streets and getting people into our program. And I can tell you that my first eye opener was when they had like a resource fair, right? They had rehabs and everything like that there, but they also had housing. And guess where the lines were at? Not treatment,
Yep.
because they're going to give them housing first. I said, that makes no
But
sense.
they don't
No
mandate
sense.
treatment. they
Yeah,
don't
so for where I
mandate-
came from in central Pennsylvania, there were organizations to help with housing and stuff like that. But guess what you were doing every month? You were going and getting drug tests. You
mm-hmm.
were going to groups. You had to do certain things to get housing. And
Accountability.
that's something we were just talking to someone in Philadelphia that they're looking into trying to change. Is we don't want to just give people housing, because guess what that turns into? That turns into a trap house, and everyone that's homeless that's using drugs is going to now start living in there.
Yeah.
But that was their interest. Well,
Yeah.
I'm looking for, I don't need treatment. I'm like, well, how long have you been using? Well, I've been homeless on the streets using for about 15 years. I'm like, have you tried treatment? Yeah, multiple times, but I just need housing right now. And I'm like, I understand that. But that housing's not going to last.
No.
And you know, in their mind, they're like, if it lasts more than one day, that's more than what I had before.
Right.
And that's the hard thing. That's
And
the
it's
hard
funny
thing.
because that I remember when that mindset came along, like when people would say like a person can't concentrate on treatment if their basic needs aren't being met. Like if I have to worry
Mhm.
about food, I have to worry about a roof over. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
And now
mhm.
we're back at the beginning. Like
Yep.
you're not going to maintain it if you're not putting forth the work for
Right.
maintaining the sobriety piece of it.
Right.
You know, so.
And even churches are getting in the way down there too. And that's a hard thing to say.
Yeah.
You know, because people that are coming from churches and providing food and shelter and clothing for all these people, all you're doing is allowing those 1,900 people to lay on the streets longer and not need to get treatment or not need to get help
Mhm.
because they're being enabled by people that think they're helping them.
Right. Right.
You know, and that turns into a whole problem, you know?
It's
Feeding them and clothing them, the clothes get left all over, the food gets left all over, the people are laying everywhere, so now kids can't come out and go to the parks because
Right.
that's where they kind of go to. And it's a whole kind of back and forth, and you try to educate people, but they want to help too, and you know, you almost get to
Yes.
that point where you're enabling, you're not helping any longer. And I think that's the hardest part.
That-
Until something gets changed with like the housing and stuff like that, where we're gonna help you out, but this is the stuff you're gonna have to do. If you don't do these things, unfortunately, you're not gonna have your housing. Just like everyone else has to pay rent,
mm-hmm.
you know, a mortgage or something like that. That's really helping them, showing them what people are doing around them. You know, we don't want to be stigmatized by being an
Right.
ex-addict or any of those kind of things. We want to do our part.
Right.
You know, like we were brought up to do. But we don't. No one shows them how to do it. You know what I mean? Because they're just taking the help right away and not thinking what led them there to begin with. One of the problems we have in our facility is they get outpatient counseling and stuff there. Well, most of their time they're complaining about the program. I'm like, how about we not complain about the program and we do the counseling on why you got to this program to begin with? So a lot of people waste their time and be like, oh, this guy yelled at me, or this guy did this, or you know, this program stinks. I'm like, let's not concentrate on this. Let's concentrate on why did you walk through our doors to begin with? And they won't. They'll go right into their counselors and just try to get through the program, right? Getting them through the program is not going to help them. Getting them to understand why they got to the program to begin with, to break them down to understand why they got there. And then when you start going through certain things, you can see what can help you instead of just worrying about what's wrong with this place, what's wrong with that, what's wrong with this. And they just want to try to make it through a program. Well, I made it through multiple programs and still relapsed. I mean, I could have probably taught everything they taught me when I went to my last rehab. I could have taught you all that stuff because I've been in so many of them. So you know the information, it's now applying it, right? Why do you keep coming back? You know?
I believe asking the right questions and You know, the more questions you have, the better equipped you are to serve them. You know what I mean? You got to hit it all. You know, family dynamics, you know, how you was raised, who raised you, where you lived geographically, all of that. And for me, I do a psychosocial, I call it on the run. I just ask you, where you from? How much, da-da-da-da. Ask these questions because I'm trying to figure out where you're from. And I know what goes on in that area. He said he's from Kennett Square. I said, oh, that's the mushroom capital. Did you know that? That's Kennett Square is the mushroom. So, you know, probability he worked in the mushroom capital. Or somebody know do, you know. So you're, yeah, because that's the big employment in that area. Yeah, so, but asking questions is good. It says holistic support services, addressing housing, employment, health, behavior needs, including mental health, and substance, we talked about it, use and treatment as part of reentry planning. So how do you, the thing is, how do I know it's mental health or substance abuse? Which one do I treat first? Or can I treat both of them at the same time? Yeah, in a lot of places you can. But what happens when the individual, male or female, is in denial of the mental health? Because back, you know, when I came in mental health, if you said you had something wrong mentally, you was demonic. It was something from the devil, you know. And so people wouldn't open that can of worms. And then the other piece is, at home, they said, don't you ever tell nobody you've got a mental health problem. Right. Why? Because I do, the parent. Yeah, so don't you be telling people we got mental issues. Yeah, but you bipolar and you're in denial. Yeah, every time you get manic, we know. You know, so yeah, so dealing with all of that, getting people to accept who they are and the condition that they're in, helping them to understand that is important. But you could paint the picture based on the information they give you, if they're being honest with you. You know, granddaddy was bipolar. The probability increases that you're bipolar, that you could be bipolar. You know what I mean? Because it becomes generational. It's passed on through the genes. You know, but you got to be willing to deal with that, even with addiction. Even though your daddy might have been an alcoholic and your brother's a crack addict, how does that happen? Well, that's addiction. You know what I mean? For me, it was, I used to say my father is a compulsive gambler and drinker. So I was in denial that he was an addict. I wouldn't accept that. Not until I got the information that I needed was I able to accept it, that he was an addict. And he didn't just wake up and become one. He was, you know, it was part of the generational thing that went on in our family. Employment. So you was talking about how it's difficult to get a job, you know, with a criminal record. Yeah, it is. The one thing I teach when I'm doing workforce development is be honest. Be honest. Don't tell them on the application what you was in jail for. Tell them that we'll discuss upon interview the charges. Because then you get an opportunity to defend yourself, you know, without them seeing you. Otherwise, they're just, and then when you get in front of the employer, then you sell yourself.
I think the hard thing with that now is, though, everybody runs your name.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's why, yeah.
They run your name. Like,
Yeah.
they'll just, oh, okay, you got charges, let me run your name.
Yeah.
Or like some, like I know healthcare places, this was like huge, we went to this one like workforce thing in Harrisburg, so you have UPMC, and it became this huge thing because I guess UPMC, they don't run your background until you're a finalist. So HR, they don't, when they interview you, they don't actually run it.
Mm-hmm.
But then once you go to HR and the finalist, and I guess some of the reentry groups were like, well, that's not fair because you're setting them up for failure. But then UPMC was like, well, our stance is we want you to be the most qualified. So they're like, we don't want to have any preconceived biases or have your hiring manager think there's certain, like, you don't have the skills, basically. So there was kind of this back and forth, but I was like, oh, I didn't realize some healthcare companies, they're kind of the opposite, where they're not going to even do the background check until you're in the top 2. But then after that, then you, like you said, you have to kind of explain like why you did it.
Did y'all see the serial killer out in Long Island in New York. Did anybody follow that?
Gilgo Beach Killer.
Yeah. Now this guy was an architect. He designed buildings in New York City. And he's running around killing people. 8 people. 8 people. So I'm saying that to say that human behavior is sometimes unpredictable. You don't know who's before you unless you're asking questions. You want to ask questions about, people who you, and look, I got it. Let me go Google. That's what people are doing.
Yes.
They meet somebody, the first thing they want to do, let me go Google them.
Yeah.
Let me check them out, because everything's on Google
Yeah.
to find out the truth. You think.
But I mean, like, if you do that too, like, I've had colleagues that are social workers, and they're the best of the best, right? And if you looked at their search and just looked at their name, you would have dismissed them, but they are the real deal, right?
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
the ones who actually
Yeah.
help and, yeah.
It's,
and
it's that way. Ain't that crazy?
Yeah, you missed out on really good, but you missed out that way. You just sort of jumping to,
Yeah.
that's what they have.
Look, I've seen it. We had this in Cumberland County, drug and alcohol case manager. They literally came and took his tags off his car because he had a DUI. Yeah, he wouldn't turn them in. So they had to come and get him. And of course he was terminated immediately, But I'm just saying, so how could you help somebody really be effective when you wasn't effective in helping yourself?
Yeah.
You wasn't honest. You telling everybody to come before you, yeah, be honest. But you couldn't be honest about your condition, and I don't know what happened to him, Let me go to the next slide. Okay, now it's time for y'all to answer them questions, to take the next test.
Incarcerated? It should.
You said C,
Yes.
at the inception of incarceration? Anybody agree with that?
I do.
You?
I believe. Yeah, I agree. I put C.
Okay.
I believe it starts in the beginning. Because you got the opportunity right there. As soon as you go into it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Get them when they come in.
I don't know, I could be wrong. I put C at first, and then I was thinking about what you said, and then I was like, oh, it's B because, like you guys said, unless you're willing to get the help, actually, like you said about the GEDs, like if they're in the beginning of incarceration, but they're not taking advantage of that,
Mm-hmm.
they'd have to be willing to accept the resources and the help.
Okay.
I put B too.
Okay.
Saying when I first answered it, I put B and C, and then the second time I put B because, yeah, you can sit there 20 years
Okay.
and never start working on it or right away.
Is this question what they should do or what they are doing?
When does it start?
Oh, okay.
That's the question, right? It says, when does reentry start? Matt, did you?
I'm always C.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Matt, so the answer is C. The answer is C.
Yeah, everyone in suspense.
Yeah, the answer is C. Because look, and I was thinking in my mind last night, even in the booking center, you're getting a bail.
Yeah.
You're getting ready to what? Reenter.
Yeah.
They're preparing for you to reenter because they're giving you a bail. I did the treatment plans. They have a thing now out in Dauphin where within 30 days you have to have a treatment plan for whoever comes in. So you're making preparation for them way before they get out. At the inception of incarceration, the treatment plan is being started. Doesn't matter whether they surrender to it or not. You're preparing them. That's when it starts. Now, here's the thing that happens a lot of times. So because you lied, the treatment plan is regulated to the lies you told. I only smoke crack on the weekends. So now you don't need long-term inpatient. You need maybe a 90-day, an outpatient program, intense outpatient maybe. Something like that. So what happens is because they negated to give the truth, they come and the stuff follows them to the state prison, and they treat what, the treatment plan says. They go home and they relapse and they say, well, nobody helped me, nobody treated me. But you never said you was an addict. So the system didn't fail you. You lied when you had an opportunity to tell the truth. You got to put it back on, the person.
When I used to go into Keystone, when we first named the centers, planted themselves as a Keystone building, I used to do assessments and stuff like that.
Right.
And a lot of times I had to sit there for 45 minutes to explain to them why they were giving this assessment. And they're like, well, I don't want to tell you I'm addict because then my parole agent's going to make me do tons of IOP. So I just act like I never was doing that stuff. It took me a long time to explain to them, like, listen, if you answer these questions truthfully, you're going to get help. But if you don't, you're not going to, and you're going to eventually end up back here if you're lucky. You might not even make it back here. But it took a lot, and I'm like, listen, they're not out to get you. They're trying to get you help. But a lot of them are like, oh, I don't need outpatient. Oh, I haven't used drugs in years. I'm like, well, did you use drugs before you got locked up? Well, that's why I was locked up. Well,
Did you look?
You know what I mean? But
Right.
they didn't want it on paper because they knew that they were going to have to do certain things. But I had to try to talk to them and understand. And then by the time we had to talk, so we do a half-hour counseling session, and then we could actually do the assessment.
How about this?
I was down there too. I did the Keystone stuff that Brian's talking about, and like my BS detector was just going off when like I was doing the assessments with these guys. You know what I mean? Because like I sat there and did that, and I said to them too, like I've sat in that seat numerous times, and I know that what you're telling me is not accurate. You know what I mean? But like you're sitting there for 45 minutes to do the assessment, but then you're taking like the extra half hour, like Brian said, to like talk to these guys about why we're doing what we're doing. Because if you're just upfront and honest right now, it's going to save you a whole lot of time at the back end of it.
So the thing is, did you get high while incarcerated? Matter of fact, let me get a urine.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Because some of them are hot right there talking to you, they hot. Let me go to the next. Identify 2 major barriers that contribute to recidivism.
I'll put D.
You put D? All of the above? Okay.
D.
Same.
Well,
I went 2. I put P and C because it says 2 major barriers.
well, and if you, I guess maybe y'all read it, didn't read it, but the major one is not able to find employment and no high school diploma is B. Yeah, a lot of guys, because of the lack of academics, I tell you, I had a guy, I used to do groups. I was doing a group in the prison, my poly group, matter of fact, and I had this guy in it because he was getting ready to go home, and he would always just doze out on me. He'd go to sleep. I said, there's got to be a problem deeper than, him just being sleepy, So one day I got him by himself and I said, what's going on? You're always going to sleep. He said, because I'm illiterate. So he zoned out because he didn't understand what was going on. So that's why I said it's important to ask the questions, especially once you get the experience, of course, you learn then, so I always do ask the question, why is they zoning out? Name some reintegration strategies that can help prevent recidivism. Which, nobody want to volunteer now. You're gun shy now.
I said D.
Yeah, I put D as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I put D.
Okay.
That's well put.
Okay, that's it. It's all of the above. Yeah, all of the above. But yeah, so education and employment is real important. Like that's why he's here. And helping people get jobs. A lot of it is for us here anyway. At A New Tomorrow is networking. Having good relationships with people, and not just people who have employment, but other agencies who know people that know people, and to give us that edge to help somebody get in. The big thing that I'm seeing up here anyway is transportation is a big issue. And I was talking to a friend of mine that works with another agency, and she says that Rapid Transit has a thing called Rapid Works. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it. Rapid Works is they give you this van, and it's $40 a month.
I was say now our issue with it. Now it's cool. It's super cool.
Right.
Wish our organization could do it.
Mhm.
Our issue is if you're a nonprofit and you have like for us residential, so we have the parking and stuff. The liability insurance won't allow us, so it has to be under a client's name. And of course, our folks aren't going to have the funds, you know,
To put it in
and
there.
all the stuff to upkeep. So that's our barriers. Like I would love to bring it there, but we then can't afford as a small nonprofit the
Wow.
liability and all that stuff.
Wow, I didn't look in. I
Like a
just
systemic barrier. Like we think, oh, this is great, let's do
Mhm.
it. But unless you have like other partners that are going to go in on it, it's like if you're just a small org, you're paying the liability and all that.
and that's I tell you, if somebody is willing want to be an entrepreneur, that's a business.
Absolutely.
Get a van. Go to, get a employer that is out the way, like Ross is over in Carlisle. Pick guys up, 10 guys up every day, and take them to Ross's,
Yeah.
and have them pay $40 a week or whatever. What 10 times? What's that? $400 a week?
Gas is expensive
Well, I
though.
mean, we
Yeah,
and
but that's okay.
That's the
That
thing,
price.
Carlisle.
It's
And,
But you're only driving one time to work and home.
I don't care.
well, in Carlisle, there was a person who tried doing that with their LLC, but again, it's always unless they have a grant or something to help someone start off, especially if you want if you're a reentry trying to start on your own,
Mhm.
it's like you need a grant or some money to help you because of liability.
Right.
It's like I
That
think that's
insurance.
Unfortunately, that's the barrier because we tried. There's another person trying that same thing where they would go to the warehouses in Carlisle, and that was the same issue. Is like they were borrowing a van from a nonprofit, but then they had to buy their own van because it had to be in their name for their business, and then it turned into this whole. And I'm like, they just want to help people. Like I don't understand why it's so difficult.
The barriers, yeah, it's barriers, yeah.
Do they have one at
Crazy.
the work release? Do they take those guys?
No, they bring them to appointments. They don't take them to work. Yeah, they do 'em. They take them to appointments, not work. You gotta find your own way, But the transportation is a big issue in Harrisburg area,
Like
you know.
Cumberland takes their work release.
Yeah.
Job,
You know why?
Wow.
You know why?
Money.
But
Somebody got killed. Yeah, somebody got killed going to work. Yeah, and it was somebody that was in the prison who killed, somebody driving the truck that was, yeah, early in the
What
morning.
was that van thing called? Rabbit what?
Rabbit Works. Yeah, Rabbit Works. Yep. But
Did you
I mean,
say, I'm sorry, did you say Cumberland County stopped doing that?
yeah,
Really? Stop driving?
they stopped letting people walk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause when I was there, they would do, I did work, at least when I was
Yeah,
there.
they hooked up with this transportation thing and they're making the money there, and it's probably connected politically some kind of way.
It always is, right?
But
Isn't
but
there a
That's
thing
about
with if
32%.
you have like
Off of what?
um
Off of San
state insurance too, you can contact them and get so many rides to like medical appointments and stuff like that. Isn't that a thing
I
as
think
well?
it's Rabbit, but you have
Yeah.
to do there's different routes depending on what you're,
Mhm.
because it's technically medical, so you have to get the non-medical, and then again, the tickets, that's the other issue, is it's based off of if you have no income, how are you gonna pay if it's a copay ride?
right.
They won't waive the fees for some folks unless they have a disability. Cause I tried doing it
Okay.
that way too, and it was you still had to pay a $2 copay, but if someone is coming out with nothing and they're trying to get their fee,
Right.
it's you're not gonna be able to pay.
There's always something.
Yeah.
Keystone's,
It's those
Keystone started
barriers.
letting the guys do that. They were letting the guys drive that had a driver's license,
Mhm.
but then they would be unaccountable for out of the week 400 hours. You know what I mean? So
Good
guys would
Lord.
drive guys back and forth to the Carlisle to the warehouses, but then the guys driving, they'd be unaccountable for however many hours.
Keep going.
They're well, we're driving, picking these guys up, and while I'm down there, I'm not coming back, so I'm gonna pick up some other stuff. But they're not letting Keystone know that, so then they would get hit for being unaccountable. It's
It's crazy. It's
Pros and
crazy.
cons of it, you know?
Yeah. But reentry is really, I believe in mentorship, sponsorship, discipleship, all of that. The only difference is what you're sponsoring them about, what you're mentoring them about, and what you're discipling them about. You know what I mean? A mentor, for me, helps navigate life, okay? An example would be if he told me he's a father and I'm his mentor, one of the things I would ask him is, when's the last time you was with your children? And are you paying support to your children? Because you told me you're a father. So I'm going to help you become hold you accountable to who you say you are. I'm not going to define who you say you are. You're going to tell me, and then I'm going to hold you accountable to it. Now, a sponsor, and on the other hand, is helping you to navigate through a 12-step program. I'm going to help you navigate through a 12-step program, whether it's AA, NA, and I always say if you're an NA, get an NA sponsor. If you're AA, get an AA sponsor. You know, it's a conflict. And discipleship is through the Word of God, whatever denomination that is. You know, you discipling through the Word of God. So the conversation is about that Word. And I think everybody needs a mentor. Male and female need a mentor. Need somebody to help you. I have a few of them in my life to help me. You know, when one ain't available, I go to another. But, you know, ultimately, I have a sponsor in recovery. Even with 40-something years, I still have a sponsor. And I have a spiritual advisor. You know, like I said, I'm an elder, so my apostle is my spiritual advisor. And he mentors me, and he gave me some more extra stuff to do as a result, using my skills, you know, and I'm okay with that. You know, I'm okay with using my skills in the body of the house, you know. And a lot of guys are reentrants. A lot of guys. I'm also the chairman for returning citizens for state parole. So I'm on that board, you know. I sit there sometimes with the director. And it's good because I ask questions about policy. You know, I want to know about policy. Is this personality or is this policy? You know, certain things that some parole agents do. You know, it's all about accountability. It's not to stir up the pot or none of that. It's just to make everybody accountable, not just the guys being supervised. What about us? Who do we be accountable to? You know, I got to be accountable to the people that ain't here today, but I'm accountable to them. You know what I mean? Yeah, they hold me accountable, and I got to watch what I say. And when I'm in the public, I'm still representing them. They let me know that. You know, even though we're friends, but this is business. And I'm okay with it because I'm consistent with who I say I am. You know, I'm not going to come here and teach one thing and I'm out there on the corner hustling, you know. Yeah, I don't know, the big thing in Harrisburg now is this GVI thing, Gun Violence Initiative. Y'all been following that? So what we're trying to do is get credible, what do they call it?
Lived experience, right?
Yeah, people with, but credible people, meaning that you can't say I'm credible, but I'm still hustling. You know, so if you have the lived experience, if you could be a successful reentrant, or say you are, and not really do. So you got to be credible in your house. You got to be credible in the community. You across the board. And they're hiring, they're paying $20 an hour to do that. A credible messenger, that's the word, credible messenger. And a credible messenger is somebody who has the lived experience, you know, of the people they're going to help serve. You know, in other words, they've been incarcerated, they've been involved with violence and all that, and now they, you know, are recovering or reentering or whatever, but they can help, you know, but our thing is, and I think we're going to be the ones to vet the people that get into it, is are you being credible in every area of your life? That's important. You know, being a role model. I mean, being a mentor, model, how can you do it if you're not living it? You know, one thing they say in recovery is attraction rather than promotion. So you ain't really got to promote. People will be attracted to it. You know, what you're doing. I live right in the hill. I live right in the community, right in where all that stuff is going. So before I even get to work, I start work. I'm serious. I had a guy come up to me one morning and he said, and I knew Matt had to get in, and because I tried to be here at 8 o'clock to open the door, and he said, man, I gotta go see my PO, you know, blah, blah, blah. I ain't got no way. And I could smell alcohol all over him, right? But I said, okay, I'm gonna take you. And then I had to navigate how I'm gonna get back, because you know, they got all the bridges out on 19th Street. So I made it here in the time.
You weren't that late. Yeah.
He was supposed to come here. He never did. I did my part. So guess what? I ain't see him no more yet. So when I see him, I'm gonna confront him. You know, that's a therapeutic tool, by the way. Confrontation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, confrontation makes you do something. You know, so I'm gonna confront him and say what happened. You know, you asked me to give you a ride. I followed through with my part, but you didn't. Oh, Mr. Larry. Well, he called me. Oh, you know, man. No, I don't know. No, tell me. You know, so I start helping people before I get here. So for me, it's a lifestyle. And people, you know, why you live on the hill? Souls are on the hill. One day, a young lady sat on my steps. My wife told me I wasn't home. And she was just going through it. And my wife came out and said, you okay? She was having a heart attack. So my wife ran, called the ambulance. They came and they saved her. But if we wasn't there, would she got the help? Would another neighbor call or just told her to get off of my steps? You know, what you doing? You trespassing. And we got a sign that says no trespassing, but you know, people could do it if they want to. My wife told me one day, listen to this is crazy. She said one day a bunch of young ladies, maybe about 4 of them, just took over the porch. And my wife looked outside. She says, they were okay. They wasn't cussing. They wasn't arguing or nothing. So she said, it was okay.
That's sweet.
A safe place.
Yes.
They look for a safe place.
They felt it.
Yeah. There it is. The spirit. That's a spiritual thing. That they would gravitate to our house. And we put a table out. Of course, I lock it to the rail because people. Come on, one of my mentors said, "Don't get clean and get dumb. Don't get." you could still be vulnerable. You know, people. I can leave my doors open. Well, I ain't leaving mine open. I ain't that trusting. Matter of fact, I don't even go in the store without locking my doors.
Same.
You gotta be conscious. You know, I told my wife that you gotta, when you get in the car, lock the door. And one day she followed through, and somebody tried to open the door. On my block. She didn't even leave from the house. So yeah, you gotta be aware today. Gotta be aware of your environment. You know what I mean? Are you being nosy? I don't think so. I want to know where every car, what house it goes. Yeah, no, I want to be secure. And then when you're in the house, you know, men, we got to protect our families. So we want to make sure, I already checked the door. Okay, I'm going to check it again. That's what we do because we're protectors. And that's a part of our instinct. To protect y'all. So when your husband does that, don't get upset. Just say, okay, he's a protector. Yeah, and keep it moving. Yeah. Any questions for it was a short class today.
It was very good, Mr.
I got a question.
Yeah.
How can you try to get, like that, like try to help people, you know what I mean? Like even if I've been out here, I'm still, like I'm okay with myself. Like I don't get high or nothing. Like I just try to find help. try to help people. You know, I do. If I got a little bit of money, how can you get involved in that?
Well, first of all, just keep doing what you're doing, staying focused. I gotta stay focused. How long you been out?
16 months.
16. So you got over a year. So you could go and get certified, get a certification. You know, after this, we could talk. I'll give you all of that information. You get a recovery specialist certification. You know, that's a start in the process. And people pay you, they hire you.
Yeah.
You know, we hire certified people, you know, and pay them pretty decent. And one of the things I told him that is being, what do you say? Being able to speak more than one language makes you marketable.
Absolutely.
And he speaks fluent Spanish. So I'm telling him, you're marketable. You're in need, especially in this area, because we have a growing Hispanic population, Dominican, Puerto Rican, Mexican. We have a big population where people speak Spanish. And
Start your own business and teach us how to
Yes.
speak.
yeah, that's one.
Beginners.
Yeah. Not broken Spanish though. No.
Know your words for sure.
No, because I had a guy when I went to school and I was taking a Spanish. This guy used to always check the teacher, and she was like, "That's broken Spanish," you know. Yeah, but that's what you gotta do. Anything else? Any questions? I appreciate all your coming, and I'm glad Mrs. Lewis came. That was my go-to person in Camp Hill.
You were my go-to.
We did a lot of work up there, and I'm telling you, they were resistant. They were fighting us. They did not want change in that environment, you know. And I tell you, eventually, not only did the staff, they came around. Because remember, I was doing the reentry block, and on the other side was the parole violators. So then they said, well, being that you come here for them, why don't you come here for the parole violators too? So I started doing two groups, one on the reentry block and one on the parole violators. And I had a CO, I don't remember his name, he came and he sat down. He said, I ain't here for them. In the group, he said, I'm here for me. I said, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's good because that's what we should be doing. We should not just be focused on the individuals, but what about the people that's treating them, watching them? You know, like in Keystone, what about the people that's overseeing the people in Keystone? You think all of them got their act together? I don't think so. You know, so, I mean, that's one of the things I did. And I'm going to say this, is this recorded?
Yeah, you want me to stop?
No, I don't care. I just know, got to watch my mouth. I had a young man that I was working with, and, you know, I felt the institution we worked in kept their thumb on him, you know, and his heart was so pure. And he told me, he says, I've been trying to get a job with probation and parole, and nobody's calling me. I said, okay. I'm going home. He said, they called me. Now he works there. And he loves it. And he's a good person because he comes in with a heart. He's like you. He want to help people, no matter what. So what? They don't like me. They hate me. He just keeps doing it because that's who he is. But they didn't know who they had before him. And as a result, somebody else came and followed them, you know. They also PO. But helping people to become who they say they are, not just inmates or reentrants, but what about the people we work with? Do we check in on them? Do we see if they're okay? I come around, ask you guys, you know, all the time. I don't care if you don't talk. You could just be mad and yeah, and then, you know, I don't care, but I'm still gonna check the temperature. Because it's important that we check in with each other, that we watch out, you know? Because then you can't tell me you go out and you do all this good stuff out there and you ain't doing nothing here. This is your home. When you come
a lot of
here.
people don't check up on you. That's the thing. When you're out here, you know, there's a lot of people that they don't be like, hey, how you doing, man? Like, I've been struggling, but I'm here, you know what I mean? They don't know that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nobody will know that.
I ask people. I've even and then I've had arrogance too. Because I'm also an entrepreneur. So I sell clothes. I'm a vendor. I got an LLC, all that. So I had these guys from community corrections coming down the street, 3 of them. You know, they ace deuce tray, arm broke down. I said, how y'all doing? Y'all down in the correction center, huh? I said, I got something for you. I wanted to give them each a pair of socks, designer socks, right? And the one guy, he said, no, we don't need that. I said, okay, that's the leader. Because everybody else, no, we don't need that. They followed through. Probably they all went back because the leader took them back. Because if the leader don't have humility, then the rest of them don't. And they don't have a mindset to step out of the order of that leadership. Because me, even though I was with him, I'd have took, give me their socks too, the ones they don't want. What? And I'm just coming home? Yeah, I want some nice socks.
I want some nice anything.
Anything, right?
Like,
But I'm saying that's arrogance. That's arrogance.
Too.
And pride.
They don't want to take nothing. I'm the same way. I'll take it. But hey, thanks, man.
Yeah, I started, when I got here, we used to call the Goodwill was the mall on Cameron Street. That's where we go. You going to mall, Cameron Street Mall? Yeah, man, I'm going down there. That's where we used to go and buy our stuff. Because we couldn't afford going to Macy's and all that. So we stayed within our means. Yeah. And now I got too many clothes. No, but I'm in the business, so when getting clothes is like, you gotta do it in the season, out of season. Leather coats in the summer. Don't buy leather coats in the winter.
Sandals in the winter.
Sandals in the winter. Everything is cheaper, out of season. So I buy stuff out of season. You know, like now it's time to buy coats. Buy coats, because they're cheap. Because now they on sale, they on clearance. That same coat that was $400, and I'm telling you from my experience, a leather coat was $400 in the winter. That coat became $80 in May. Ain't that crazy? Mm-hmm. So I got it for Father's Day. I laid away, told the kids pay for it. That was, yeah, that's it. I ain't gonna be extravagant and get it now and have them pay all that money, and 3 months later it's a third of the price. Yeah. But it's all about learning. It's all about asking questions and meeting people. And of course, I network with people who sell the stuff. And language, let me say this, and I'm gonna close. Language is so important, even in retail. Like when you go in a store and you say, well, how much is this item? And you see it, the price. Like they had something on clearance in across the river in Capital City Mall. And I said to the woman, I know they was on sale. It was sweatsuits for women. They was on sale for 13 something. I said, how much for all of them? And the woman said, well, I don't know. I'm not the man. I said, well, here, give your manager my card. The manager called me and said, if you buy more, I'll give them to you for $8. I went over and took the whole rack. Sold them for $30.
That's the way to do it.
That's business. You pay for what you don't know. You don't know how to put brakes on? Gotta pay. Don't know how to fix your, but you.
Stop it.
They got personal for her. Yeah. But yeah, that's what business is all about. But yeah, so I hope y'all got something out of this. I appreciate you coming near and far. Thanks for supporting me big time. You know that. Yep. And we have, what we have for Amanda?
We have some lunch back there, so if you want to stay and have a sandwich or help yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.